All right, welcome to another deep dive. You want to learn about some of the more brutal creatures, right, from Philippine mythology. And trust me, these aren't just spooky stories we're talking about.
Not at all.
They give us a look, like a window into Filipino culture and values and how people view, the world around them, like how they see things, right?
Mhm.
So get ready for some horse-headed tricksters, a creature that splits in half, to hunt, and then spirits that can, like, give you sleep paralysis.
Yeah, it's remarkable how these creatures, they're not just there to scare you. They really do provide a glimpse into Filipino culture and those underlying beliefs.
Okay, so let's jump right in. One of the first things I noticed was, like, how many of these creatures are connected to nature, and especially trees.
Oh, yeah.
Like, take the body bot, for example. Its
Hmm.
spirit takes the form of, like, a large elderly woman,
Hmm.
lives in balite trees.
Yeah, the belay tree is, it's considered sacred in Filipino culture, often seen as like a home to spirits.
And if you mess with one of these trees, it's said to make the body bot really angry.
Oh, yeah.
And that leads to, wait for it, sleep paralysis.
Oh, that's creepy.
Right, that feeling of being totally awake, but you just can't move.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's like, it highlights the deep respect that Filipino culture has for nature.
For sure.
These trees are, like, ancient, sacred, and to disrespect them, you're basically asking for trouble from, well, some pretty powerful spirits, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not to be trifled with.
It's nature's way of saying, back off. So speaking of powerful tree spirits, we can't forget about the kapit.
Right, right.
Now, it's different from the body bot. The kapit's invisible
Uh-huh.
and huge. It's less about punishing people and more about guarding the trees themselves.
Exactly. They might cause a little mischief sometimes, but the kapit, they're not, evil. They represent the power of nature, like an untamed force.
Okay, so speaking of forces to be reckoned with, let's move on to some creatures that are a bit more, shall we say, alluring.
Ooh.
I'm talking about the Aang.
Okay.
These are like beautiful horsewomen who guard treasures in the forests.
Interesting.
Treasure guarded by beautiful horsewomen. That sounds pretty tempting, right?
It does, but there's always a catch. It's like their beauty is a trap
Right.
to trick anyone who's driven by greed.
It's that classic theme, the allure of beauty and, like, the dangers of greed. And the Aang they really show that idea.
Yeah, for sure.
They highlight how beauty can be both, enchanting, but also dangerous.
Exactly. And you see that same thing with the Prikoi,
Okay.
the merfolk of the Philippines.
Ah,
They use like these enchanting voices to lure people into the water.
yeah.
But their beauty, well, it hides some deadly intentions.
It's a familiar story, but it's stuck around for a reason.
Right.
It plays into that primal fear of the unknown depths of the sea, a place that can be, like, breathtakingly beautiful, but also utterly terrifying.
Exactly. The Prikoi embodies that duality. A reminder that the sea is a powerful force and you got to respect it.
Okay, ready to switch gears a bit, because we're about to talk about some creatures that are, to put it lightly, terrifying.
Okay, I'm ready.
First up is the Tiano, the vengeful spirit of an unbaptized or aborted child.
This is where we really get to see those cultural insights. The Tiano, it doesn't just represent a fear of ghosts. It embodies this anxiety about souls that are trapped, like in limbo.
So it's not just a scary monster. There's, like, a deeper fear rooted in Filipino Catholicism.
Yes. The Tiano, it really emphasizes the importance of baptism and proper burial rites.
Right.
It's like a visceral reminder that life is fragile, and there can be consequences if you disrupt these sacred traditions.
I can see how that would make the Tiano even more scary. So, okay, moving on to another creature that's, well, the stuff of nightmares.
Okay.
The Sigbin. Okay, so picture this, right? A backward-walking, bat-like creature with a thirst for blood.
Oh.
It's essentially a vampire with an extra dose of creepy,
I can imagine.
The Sigbin it's fascinating because it embodies, like, all these layers of meaning. On one hand, it's this primal fear, darkness, supernatural, the unknown. But it often appears during Holy Week, which adds, like, another layer of symbolism to it,
Right.
connecting it to sacrifice and the struggle between good and evil.
It's true. There's a lot going on with that one.
Okay, so we've got guardians of nature, alluring tricksters, and bloodthirsty creatures. Now, get ready for this. We have a creature that, well, it defies explanation.
What?
The Menanangle. Can you imagine seeing something split its body in half and just fly off into the night? That's the Menangle.
Wow.
It taps into, like, these very basic fears, Not only can it split in two, but it also specifically hunts pregnant women.
Oh, gosh.
which makes it even more horrifying, right?
Yeah, that's scary. It's like it preys on the most vulnerable.
And what's really interesting is it has specific weaknesses: salt, garlic, ash.
Really? Like a home remedy kit for fighting the supernatural.
Exactly. It gives people like a sense of, they can do something. These weaknesses reflect traditional beliefs about, warding off evil, a way to fight back against the darkness.
It's interesting how these beliefs are so intertwined with the creatures themselves.
So we have nature's protectors, creatures blurring the lines between beauty and danger, and then terrifying bloodsuckers. What else could we possibly encounter on this deep dive into Filipino folklore?
Well, we have one more stop on this leg of our journey, the Makukulam. And unlike some of the creatures we've discussed, the Makukulam is, well, it's a bit more complex than just good versus evil. They're Filipino witches, and they practice
Kulam?
kula. It's form of magic.
So they're not necessarily monsters, but people with a certain type of power.
Exactly. They're feared for their curses, but also respected for their potential to heal. Originally, they were seen as shamans, healers, keepers of this ancient knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But as colonialism took hold, their practices were, well, they were often demonized.
That's really interesting. It shows how cultural change can impact how we see tradition and belief. It reminds us that good and evil, well, the lines between them can be blurred, especially when different cultures come together.
Exactly.
Speaking of blurred lines, we can't end this part of our exploration without talking about the tikbalang, maybe the most iconic creature in all of Philippine mythology.
Ah, yes, the Tikbalang.
The horse-headed trickster, right. Now, that's a creature I'm definitely curious to learn more about.
Well, the Tikbalang is fascinating because it represents this unique balance between fear and respect. It's a creature that demands our attention. It makes us think about how we interact with the world, especially nature.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's take a closer look at this horse-headed trickster. But first, a quick recap of what we've learned. We've encountered spirits tied to nature, creatures that embody, the allure and danger of beauty, bloodthirsty beasts straight out of nightmares, a shapeshifter that splits in half, and witches who walk this fine line between healing and harm. What a journey.
It has been, and we've only just begun. So the Tikbalang, right. It's known for leading travelers astray, like playing tricks on anyone who wanders into its territory.
So there's a reason behind the pranks. It's not just messing with people for fun.
Right, exactly. Filipinos believe that if you encounter a Tikbalang, it's like a test.
To test.
Yeah, a test of your wit, your respect for nature,
Hmm.
your ability to deal with the unexpected.
I can see how that fits with everything we've been talking about. Respecting nature, understanding boundaries, being ready for anything.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme for sure. Think about the body bot and those sacred trees, or the Ang with their guarded treasures. The Tikbalang just reinforces this idea that there are consequences if you don't respect those boundaries, especially when it comes to nature.
It's like these creatures are the embodiment of those values, right? Warnings that have been passed down through generations to help people live in harmony with their surroundings.
Exactly. And the Tikbalang adds another layer to that. It's not just about avoiding getting punished. It's about using your smarts, your cunning, to deal with a world that's, well, full of mystery and the unexpected.
Okay, so how do you outsmart a horse-headed trickster? Do you challenge it to a game of chess?
Well, maybe not chess, but there are traditional beliefs about how to appease the Tikbalang.
Okay.
Showing respect, wearing certain amulets, even asking permission to enter its territory. These are ways to deal with the encounter without making it angry.
It's like you're saying, hey, I see you, I get it, you're powerful, I'm going to be careful here.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's about realizing that there are forces at play that we might not fully understand, and you got to approach those forces carefully and with respect.
What's really interesting to me is how these creatures, these stories, they're still such a big part of Filipino culture today. They're not just old myths that nobody believes anymore.
Oh, absolutely. They're woven into everyday life, You hear them in conversations, stories that people tell, even pop culture references.
So even in a modern world, with all our technology and, advancements, these ancient beliefs, they still matter.
I think they do.
Mm.
And it speaks to something we all need,
Yeah.
I need to believe in something bigger than ourselves, something mysterious, something we can't explain.
It's even though we're always looking for logic and reasons, there are still these forces out there that we might never truly understand.
Exactly. And maybe that's okay. Maybe a little mystery makes life more interesting.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got these guardians of nature, creatures that show us like the beauty and the danger of, well, beauty, bloodthirsty beasts straight from nightmares, a shapeshifter that splits in half, and witches who walk this line between healing and harm. Wow, what a journey.
It has been, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I think what's striking me is how these creatures, as crazy as they sound, give us this look into how Filipinos see the world.
Absolutely. It's a perspective that values respect for nature, strong family ties, and a real awareness of the dangers that are out there.
But it's not all about fear, right? There's also a sense of wonder, like recognizing the magic that exists all around us.
That's a great point. It's not about rejecting, modern life or being afraid of the supernatural. It's about acknowledging that there's more to the world than what we see. And maybe embracing that mystery can make our lives, well, more interesting.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into these brutal creatures of Philippine mythology, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think it's this. Even in a world that's so focused on logic and reason, there's still room for wonder,
Mhm.
for those things we can't explain, for the magic that's just out of reach.
Right.
These creatures, they're not just, made up stories.
Yeah.
They reflect a culture's values, their fears, their hopes. And they remind us that the world is a much richer, more complex place than we sometimes think it is.
It's like we should always stay curious. Remember that there are stories waiting to be told, mysteries to uncover, and maybe even a little bit of magic just around the corner, right?
Exactly. So next time you're walking through a forest or looking out at the ocean, just, remember the creatures we talked about.
Yeah.
Remember the lessons they teach us,
Yeah.
the values they represent,
Yeah.
and how powerful belief can be, even in a world that's always trying to explain, the unknown.
I love that. So on that note, we'll leave you to think about the mysteries of the unseen world. Until next time, keep searching, keep asking questions, and never lose that spark of curiosity.